All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. For the next 4 hours, I am your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, and Simul Radio and Simul TV. If you would like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com on all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And for the programming that we have available for you, 724-365 with our compliments on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. And for the X Zone TV channel on Simul TV, www.simultv.com. And in the search engine on the top of the page, type in X Zone. My guest this hour is Matthew Bennett, and he is with DPART, that is Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team. And joining me now is Matthew. And Matthew, welcome to the X Zone.
Well, thank you for having me, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, and where did your interest in the paranormal come from?
Oh, it's been a lifelong interest. I've been doing this now for getting on to be 10 years, about 9.5. We started early in 2010 here in Des Moines, Iowa, is where we're based out of.
Yeah.
And I've always had as a kid, I've always had a kind of an unnatural fear of death. Everybody's got that fear of death, but as it's from a young age, early memories, 4 and 5 on, I can remember having, worried thoughts and dreams about death that weren't right for that age appropriate. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so that's always been kind of a driving force for me. And now that I've gotten into the field, it's that question is answered, but so many more have popped up. But it's awesome. I love what we do.
Why do you think you had such a fear of death as a youngster?
That's I've been doing a lot of introspection looking internally here over the last year, and answers and that question has actually come up. It's kind of funny that you asked that because, and I still don't know where it stems from. I don't know if it comes from, knowledge of a past life, or if it, I don't know exactly where it stems from. I just know it was an unnatural, it was unnatural for me to have those thoughts at such a young age. And because I would literally imagine what it would be like to be 6 feet under. I mean, it was, and the nothingness that, what was after this life, what was after this run, philosophical thoughts that a 6-year-old shouldn't be having.
To say the least. And the work that you've done in the paranormal over these years, how has that changed your belief?
Oh, that's a great question. And again, kind of funny that you asked that because that was one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on tonight because, a lot of people would think that, you get into the paranormal, it's just because you're going to go in and, go out and do some investigating or, quote unquote, air quotes, ghost hunting. Yeah. And it's really, I got into this to do, private cases for individuals that were having, problems in their homes to make sure that they had safe spaces and to coexist or to try to get, issues resolved for them. But it's become so much more than that. I'm finding that I'm doing a lot more work in between those cases on just a normal day basis, with the colleagues that I've met and the networking that I've done and the people that I've met. It seems like the work goes on between the cases as opposed to, don't get me wrong, the cases are, a part of it.
Sure.
But it's just a fraction of it.
Now, tell us a little bit about Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team. How many members are you in the team, and how long have you been together?
Well, we have both full-time and part-time members, and we have about, I don't know, we had at one point we had 21 members in like 5 different cities in Iowa. We've kind of done a little bit of restructuring over the course of the last year. So I would say our core members are about 5 of us that are the full timers.
Right.
And then we have I don't know, say probably about another half a dozen to 10 other people that come in and help us part time. And it's not just the team too. It's working with other people. We work with so many other teams around the state. Doing things, whether it be helping out with a fundraiser or helping out with a location or coming in on a private investigation, to give a different perspective. There's so many aspects to it.
Something that the public may not be aware of, but you do not charge for your investigations. Therefore, every expense that you have comes out of your pockets. And these fundraisers are really important in keeping your work going.
They are, and not just us as a group, but the locations too. The locations, some of these locations, it's not are 100, 150 plus years old. They're not cheap and easy to keep up and maintain. So the price of admission to get in to investigate the place goes towards that, and also the fundraising too, because especially the newer locations that are popping up, they're just getting started, and so they've still got the task of rebuilding, restoring, restructuring, and then trying to get everything off the ground. Or some of them are actually even doing both at the same time, which is amazing.
But on the other hand, you guys are creating a tourism industry for these places. So why should you have to pay admission charges?
It's because it's just the way it works right now. Unfortunately, the way things are set up, it's not perfect. I'll agree with you, but the way the mainstream, and it's changing. It really is. The paranormal right now, ufology, cryptids, the spiritual research, all of that stuff has become a lot more mainstream now than it ever has. I mean, just look at some of the musicians out there, and their album, they're following the trend.
Yeah, I can understand that, but when I look at it, I say, what they're doing is they're just jumping on the bandwagon because they get all this free publicity.
Well, now, see, as a person, this is something else that some of the work we've done. I was blessed and honored enough to actually help run a location. We were supposed to actually purchase it from the town, but things didn't quite work out. But being on the end, I know what it's like to help, try to get a location like that up and running. We were there for a year, and I spent literally hundreds of hours in that building in my team. But it was a deal because the community didn't want it. They didn't. Some of them didn't like the paranormal. Don't view that way. They've got they've got their beliefs, and that doesn't necessarily include the paranormal, and that's fine. But what makes my heart sad is that if you don't look at it in a religious view, but if you look at it as a living history view, being able to actually interact with the people and the history that's on this land that we live on.
Okay, now you said interact with the people. How do you interact with people? What people are you interacting with?
When we get communication with like, for example, clients. When we're doing client work. Yeah. We'll get information that's specific to the client. Or stuff that comes through that the client will their eyes will light up and that like a nickname or something. Only something that the client would know that's directly coming from whom we're trying to make communication with.
Why do you
stuff like that?
Why do you call them clients? It makes it sound so cold, so businesslike.
It does. It's just kind of a habit I've fallen into. We love every one of ours, and we also do a lot of aftercare too. We continually check in with the people that we help, to make sure that they're working more positive steps in their life, because it's not just going in, doing the investigation. Sometimes we don't even do investigations. We've had people contact us, and it's just a matter of answering a few questions for them, or interpreting some activity that they're experiencing within their home. Things of that nature. You're right. Client is a very cold word, and I shouldn't use it, but it's just
you're not the only one that uses it, and I question everyone who uses it, because, like I said, it sounds very cold, very callous, very impersonal, and yet the service that you talk about, in my opinion, is very warm and very personable.
And we try to make it that way. And I never did. Thank you for pointing that out, Rob. I never did. I've never really viewed it that way. I've always looked at it from more of a professional aspect. But you're right. It does make it seem more cold. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right, stand by, please. We've got to take a break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes from now. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Our guest this hour is Matthew Bennett, and he is with Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team, and their Facebook page is facebook.com, and this is the entire thing, my friends, Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team, and you have to type up the whole thing. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Crystal Beach, Ontario, Canada. That is in the regional municipality of Niagara. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, Xzone Radio TV. And once again, if you'd like to find out about the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit xzbn.net. And for the X Zone TV channel on SimulTV, go to their page at simultv.com and just type in the search engine X Zone. Speaking about SimulTV, I'd like to welcome HD55 TV in Los Angeles, California, joining us as a new broadcast affiliate. And in India, the Times India Group. Apparently, last week we had the potential of going into 10 million homes. This week, it's 20 million homes. So there you go. The X Zone is growing thanks to you, the members of the X Zone Nation. Matthew Bennett is our guest, and he is with Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team. Now, Matthew, how many investigations do you guys do a year?
It really varies, Rob. Like this year, for example, it's been kind of crazy. What normally is the season normally starts around the end of September.
Yeah.
What we call the busy season, and then that runs usually through the winter, and then normally kind of drops off at the spring, summer, when people are getting out of their homes. So this year, our off season, or the summer, was really busy, and then our busy season has been kind of actually slow this year. But I would say on average, we probably do anywhere between 10 to 20, 50. Sometimes it just varies from year to year. We had one year where we actually did 30 in 1 year, and then as few as 5. It just really varies.
So you guys are really busy.
We have been. We've had our years. here lately it's been picking up a little bit more. Like I said, it really does vary from time to time, and how the condition of things are running as a whole.
In your opinion, what has been your most fascinating investigation that you have done with your team?
Oh, let's see. There are so many. Well, for example, when we were out doing the schoolhouse, this is a pretty cool example. There's so in the town that we were investigating, it's a little town in southwest Iowa. There's two locations, one about a block away from another. One is an old hotel, and the other one is a school. And we were there the night before on a Friday to get the building ready for the team that was down investigating the site down the block, a couple blocks. And we're really good friends with them. We've done a lot of stuff with them. And so I had the idea. We were getting ready to put our stuff up for the night, and then our walkie-talkie started going off kind of weird. They were making one squawk for yes and no squawks for two. And we checked the batteries, and we tried to debug and make sure that everything was working on everything. And then it would start responding directly to our questions. So I asked the question if I should go down and talk to Nick and Sue, and it answered yes. So I went down and did. And we went ahead and decided that, well, first I checked on them to see how they were doing. And then we went ahead and decided, we would come up with this word, zucchini. It was a 3-syllable word, very distinctive. It came through the communication apps we were using. Then, a 3-syllable word is kind of hard to come through. So I go back up, to make this long story short, I go back up to the school. Within a couple minutes, I turn on our communication device. I get the word come through very deliberately, zucchini. I call her up. I lose connection with the call while I'm trying to tell her about the communication. So I go down there, and in the time it takes me to go down there, they get the word zucchini come across their spirit device. So we're thinking this is cool. So we've got to go ahead and continue this. So I asked them to go ahead and see if they would pick out one of the three of the people that were there at the school to come up and touch. And sure enough, the next morning I came down, and Paul got touched an hour and a half after we had set that all up, or, not arranged, but, came up with the plan. And next morning, sure enough, we went down and told them, was it Paul that you chose? And they're like, yeah. And then soon after the time, because we noted the time, about 5 minutes after that, he came down and across the ovulus and said, felt him. So interaction between the locations, that's probably one of the coolest investigations we've done. And it wasn't really even an investigation. We were just there getting the school ready for the next day for the investigation that weekend, and we were just kind of messing around that night after we got our work done. So, stuff like that happens at any time, really.
Now, you said that you mentioned a device that you were using. What was that device, and how does it work?
It's a device. Most people are really skeptical of them, but we make sure that the apps that we use for communication are ITC, intertransdimensional. I can never get this right. The ITC apps, and the apps, the two of them that we use, Necrophonics and Spiritus, and they're phonetics. They're phonetical based, and they open up a direct line of communication for talking with the entities.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the science. I don't know the actual technical side of things as far as that goes. But I do know some very trusted colleagues in the field that have used it and kind of put it through the old rigmarole. And he's got 3 degrees and in sciences and whatnot, and so he's pretty much torn it apart and had people look at it. And when you get something that comes across and spitting out 3-syllable words and relevant information to what the questions that you're asking and whatnot, you gotta wonder if it's actually communication that you're having. You've got to always have that kind of speck of doubt, but at the same time, you also can't be afraid to make that leap. And when you're getting that relevant information and you're getting those tidbits of information.
So in your opinion, what is a ghost or a spirit or entity, whatever you guys call them?
What is it made up of?
No, what are they?
What are they?
Yeah.
Well, that ranges. You have what now these are just strictly based on my opinions, beliefs, and experiences. But I firmly believe there are everything from interdimensional beings, from human entities that have come and come and gone and come back and visit us through the dimensional planes. There are spirit guides. There are, shadow figures. There's a lot of different entity types, spirits, whatever you'd like to call them.
Okay, so you've got all these entities. You have all these paranormal teams like yourself and others throughout the country. I think in the state of California alone, there's 3,000 paranormal groups.
Right.
You get all these people who go out each and every night, spending money out of their pockets. What is the ultimate goal?
That's a great question. And oh man, how long do we have? I'm joking. The ultimate goal, that's a different question. You're going to get a different answer every person you ask that. For me personally, it started out one thing when I first started,
mm-hmm.
and now it's kind of morphed and changed into something else. It's the more I do the work that I do in this field, the more I find out that it's not just going out and spending money on locations and going out and investigating. It's making those human connections with people not necessarily even involved in the paranormal. It's just finding that balance. We have to maintain a balance of both human and spiritual side. When we're it's a dual existence that we live. I'm getting ready to jump off the deep end here and get into some deep stuff, but or I could anyway. That's what this is to me. It's not just going out and hunting ghosts and trying to capture evidence and whatnot. Yes, that's a small fraction of it, but
mm-hmm.
but it's just a small part of a bigger puzzle.
Listen, let me ask you. You guys call it ghost hunting. When you go and you hunt something, you kill it. You're hunting something that's already dead.
I personally don't like the term ghost hunting. I've used it several times during the
mm-hmm.
podcast because that's the term that people use. My personal opinion, I don't care for it. I prefer paranormal investigators or spiritual researchers.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, those are, ghost hunting to me is somebody that does it as a hobby, and that's fine. I don't knock people for their reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their reasons why they get into this.
Sure.
And as long as they're following their heart and being true to themselves and not hurting anybody and doing wrong, then more power to them.
Okay, once again, why do you guys do what you do? For example, if somebody was to find out proof, which nobody has yet, does that mean the paranormal investigations come to an end?
No, and I was just talking to a gal today, doing some work on this new project that I've been recently involved in. Her name is Katie,
mm-hmm.
and she does a lot of work on the cryptozoology side of things.
Yeah,
she does a lot of work in Lake Champlain, looking for what some people would call Loch Ness Monster or Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah, champ.
Creatures.
Yeah, champ.
Yeah, champs.
Yeah.
She's actually gotten a lot of good documented work done towards champs, and she thinks that actually might not be so much the paranormal side of things, but just an undiscovered creature that we don't know about.
Yeah,
yet.
Champ has been identified by many people who are experts as a giant-sized sturgeon.
Right,
Okay,
right.
so let's move on. We know what that is. Okay.
Right, but you still have to. It's still an undiscovered. It's still an undiscovered creature type.
All right, listen. We've got to take our break. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Exo Nation, don't go away. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. By the way, the X Chronicles newspaper for March 2020 is now available with our compliments at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. And let me see, one of the major stories, in fact, the front cover story of this edition is the debunking of the F.A. Mitchell's crystal skull. Yeah, he's a complete fraud, a fake. He and his daughter sucked in many people over the years, but guess what? We exposed them. We've got the proof, and it's all there. www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. Matthew Bennett is our guest. He is with Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team. Their Facebook page is facebook.com/Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team. Now, before we went away, we were just talking about Champ and Lake Champlain. And, people have said, including experts, that, hey, it's a giant-sized sturgeon. It gets seen once in a while. Okay. So as far as the experts are concerned, that case is solved. When it comes to Loch Ness, there have been many expeditions to try and find out what is actually in the loch, and nothing has been found. There was a theory that it was a plesiosaur. Well, the deep sonar and deep radar soundings of the lochs found nothing. I understand the intrigue and the mystery behind the paranormal. However, after all these years, there doesn't seem to be any change in very much. How do you think this plays out on the public?
I think that and I have to say, the more answers that we get, it seems like for every answer we have and that we actually are able to put our finger on, there seems to be 5 more questions that pop up. It's almost that. I think that's why it's so elusive, and that's why we haven't been able to prove much to the public at this point, because we're looking for answers that are elusive. We're looking for answers and things that I've learned over the last almost 10 years that you have to wait for the answers to come to you. And I think that needs to be a new outlook and a new view on a lot of these paranormal teams and people that are doing work in all branches of the paranormal, whether it be cryptids, whether it be ufology or spiritual research. We seek that which retreats from us. So if we just kind of do what we're supposed to do and let those answers come to us as they need to and as they should, maybe the outlook on things might change a little bit.
Why do you think the scientific community hasn't gotten involved in all of this?
Because it's so hard to get the controlled environments to repeat, the same results. And I understand why the scientific community hasn't gotten involved with it. Because it's so hard to prove on a scientific level. But there are people that are really working hard in the trenches to try to get that changed, to try to get just a little bit of it to, be able to be held up by credible scientific standards.
But how can you, researchers, expect to get this done when you don't have the talent, you don't have the expertise, you don't have the education that the scientific community does? And if the scientific community isn't very interested in it, what does that tell you?
Well, maybe that just tells us that we're trying to bring a new perspective. It doesn't necessarily, just because we didn't go to college, or some of us didn't go to college. There's a lot of us who did. I didn't personally. I attended some college, but I'm not as well educated as I could be.
Sure.
But I have lived this crazy game we call life, and in my opinion, that's one of the best colleges that you could ever go to.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. However, the game of life does not teach you the intricacies that go along with the cause and effect of a lot of things. Where the science, whether you're a chemist, whether you're a biologist, whether you're a botanist, whether you're an astronomer, whatever your chosen field is, you are trained to find all the little nuances and to kind of solve them. You were talking before about this obelisk that you guys use. And during the break, I was wondering, well, wait a sec. How can somebody develop a tool or an app when they don't understand what they're targeting that app or that tool for? If you don't know what a ghost or any other paranormal phenomena is, how it works, how can you create something to communicate with it? You know, I asked Dr. Seth Shostak the same thing. You've got these arrays of radio telescopes scanning the skies, and yet we're looking for something based on what we believe. In this case, carbon-based life. I'm talking about SETI now. What happens if the extraterrestrials are not carbon-based? What happens with all this communication you're trying to listen to? They may be sending something out, but because you don't understand more about the ET, even if he is out there, you'll never hear a signal. So taking that same hypothesis into other realms of the paranormal, how do you guys do it?
A lot of trial and error. A lot of teachable moments is what I like to call them. I don't necessarily look at failure as failure. I look at it as teachable moments. You know, if you're able to find that one takeaway that you need from a failure, then it's not a failure anymore. It's you've got just another small piece of that very, very large puzzle that we're all trying to, put together and kind of figure out.
Okay.
I think there needs to be more collaborative work. I think there needs to be a lot more collaborative work between the science. I think there needs to be a little bit more open-mindedness on the scientific side of things, and I think there needs to be a little bit more scientific approach along with the metaphysical, because you can't have one without the other. The metaphysical is tied into everything we do, at least in my beliefs, in my opinion.
But you see, you
have to meet in the middle. You have to meet in that middle point. You have to get more towards the scientific side. The scientific side has to come more toward the metaphysical side, and we can find that. Hopefully, we can find that common ground.
All right, let's say 20 years down the road, there's still nothing. There's still no proof of extraterrestrials from outer space. There is no proof that Bigfoot really does exist. There is no proof that Loch Ness Monster is real. There is no proof of life. Of communication after death. What happens?
Then we need to then different avenues and different modes of thinking need to be employed. Insanity is doing the same behavior and same things, expecting different results.
That is true.
You have to keep trying new things. When something doesn't work, like I said, you take that teachable moment out of that moment, and apply it to the next scenario, next theory, or whatever you might have, whatever avenue you want to pursue.
And if after all this time there's nothing found, there's no proof, do you just keep on searching? Do you just keep on looking? Do you keep on flogging a dead horse?
I guess at that point you have to ask yourself that you would have to ponder the question of when does it become futile?
Right.
But that's a whole other discussion.
Well, it's part of this discussion.
It is, but I personally, like I said, with my views and how I view on failure, personally, is my mindset. I don't think I could ever give up, and if I think the society had that mindset as a whole, I don't know. Do you think we should? When do you think? When do you think we should call it and throw the towel on it? When? How do you come to that? How do you come to that census? Where do you draw that line? How do you even determine how and when to draw that line?
Once every and any aspect and avenue has been followed, and to the very end, nothing changes. Like you said, expecting the same results. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's futile. That's insanity.
But then that begs the question, when do you know that you've exhausted every possible avenue that you possibly can?
Well, let's put it this way. 3,000, let's say 10,000 groups go out every night looking for proof with all the gadgetry and all the equipment. And still, after I've been doing the show for 30 years, nothing has changed in 30 years. Except more people are kind of getting into a world from where reality seems to sit to where fantasy has opened a door. A lot of it gives people the possibility that there is something there. Gives the possibility. But once again, all these years, no change. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Carry me home to Birmingham, to my Sarah Ann, to where I grew a man.
Nobody can tell you there's only one song worth singing. They may try and sell you, 'cause it hangs them up to see someone like you. But you've gotta make your own kind of music, sing your own special song, make your own kind of music, even if nobody else sings along. You're gonna be nowhere, the loneliest kind of lonely. It may be rough going just to do your thing, the hardest thing to do. But you gotta make your own kind of music.
And welcome back, everyone. Matthew Bennett is our guest. Facebook.com/Des Moines Paranormal Activity Research Team. Before we went to the break, when do you call it quits? Well, I agree with you that every aspect and every avenue has to be followed. I agree with you 100%. But when you're going down an avenue, you usually know what you're looking for. And there seems to be so many different descriptions of what people who are involved in trying to prove the existence of spirits, paranormal activity, and so on, they differ right across the board. It seems that not two paranormal groups have the same opinions on anything. And I think that this is one of the biggest problems that the public has. How do you, as a member of a paranormal organization, how do you... I'll give you a better example. When I was in the police force, we shared information. In the United States, it's called NCIC, I believe, National Crime Intelligence Center, or Information Center. Up here in Canada, it's CPIC, Canadian Police Information Center. And all the information from all the different police departments is put into the computer, so that when you're looking for something or working an investigation, you have access to all this information. The Canadian computers talk to the American computers and all the other members of Interpol. And yet, within the paranormal community, everybody is so tight-fisted with the information that they're afraid that the information that they share may give somebody the smoking gun.
And that's where we need to change. And that's where we need to change our mindset. We need to start working more as a bigger unit, cogs, and a bigger unit, a bigger machine. And I think that's the big reason that there hasn't been a lot of change in this field. Is that you're right? There's a lot of bickering. We don't experience a lot of that here in Iowa. A lot of the Iowa teams here, we're kind of closed off from that, because a lot of the Iowa teams here, we work together, we collaborate, we share information, We're not afraid to call one another.
Well, that's
if
great.
something is happening that we're not sure of,
Yeah.
we're not afraid to ask for help. We're not afraid to reach out to those people that might have those answers that that we need.
I think that's commendable. I really do. But how do you get the other organizations to follow suit?
Just keep plugging along, trying to do the right thing, and as time goes on, the people that can't get behind that kind of thing usually fall off, and then it just kind of becomes a rotating door. I think there's going to be a lot of things that will be coming up with the disclosure side of things. I've been talking to Michael Hall here really close here lately, and he's been working on a lot of cool things with the not cool but interesting things with the Admiral Wilson memo of 2008 or 19, which was just last year.
Tell our listeners
so
about
there's a lot
that.
of
Tell our listeners about that.
okay, so it came through the pipe works. To make a long story short, because I know we're in the last segment. Grant Cameron came across some memos and came to Michael Hall to set up an information trust should anything happen to him while he was in possession of these said documents, which, among other things, was the confirmation of MJ-12, reverse engineering, and the fact that Roswell actually confirming Roswell.
Okay.
And so now, well, go ahead.
I said okay, but that, those papers have been dispelled by major players within the UFO field as another gimmick, another another spread of misinformation and disinformation.
What about the videos that were leaked from the USS Nimitz encounter?
Okay, if they were so valid, all right, why didn't the information come out before Tom DeLonge and his gang of whoopies and yahoos got involved? For one thing, hyperspace drive on aircraft and experimental aircraft were done 10 years ago within the area of the sighting. Like, people just don't read. They take all the crap that they read on the internet, and it's got to be true because it's on the internet. Do research, real research, and you'll find out that there is nothing unusual except the fact that the information was leaked. And that, like when somebody leaks information because they think that, I'm going to be a whistleblower, I'm this great cool person, I think they're idiots. They should be put in prison with the key thrown away. There are things within national security the public does not need to know. Because if the public knows, the bad guys knows, our enemies know. We're tilting our hand. And I think that when you talk about the idiots at Area 51 who tried to storm it, where are their brains? And when it comes to the Roswell crash, we know for a fact they were mogul balloons, for God's sake. And Grant Cameron likes to pull his own horn. Like, the guy's an author. He wants to make money.
I think that we need to have full disclosure in the government. I don't necessarily agree with that last statement that you made about the public doesn't need to know about some things.
Well, they don't need to know. They don't need to know.
I think our government does need to be more.
No, sir, they don't. No, they don't. Then you've never served in the you've never served in the military, and you've never.
I haven't, but I do have close family members that have.
Oh, so you want the Russians? You want the Russians and the Chinese to know where everything is, right?
That's the problem with the mindset of the world is that there shouldn't.
What's the matter? Come on, speak.
Nothing.
Talk.
There should be no animosity in
Oh yeah, we'll all hold hands, sing Kumbaya, and it's going to be a better world. Well, you know what? It ain't going to happen, pal.
With mindsets like that, it ain't going to happen, sir.
Well, Look at the world in a real life, not the life of the internet.
And it's a scary time we live in, sir.
If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So if you're telling the adversaries that we have where our main forces are, what type of weaponry we have, you're putting the country at risk.
Our adversaries, the common enemy is not going to be anybody here on Earth. we would all unite to face a greater common enemy.
Oh,
What if
for
these
God's
things that are
sake,
being
come
made-
on. So you're saying that we're going to get invaded by little green men in flying saucers?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you have to explore all possibilities. You can't be so closed-minded when it comes to
It's
stuff
not being
like that.
closed-minded. What that is being is very cautious, because you stay closer to your friends but closer to your enemies.
Cautiously optimistic. Yes, sir. I get that. I get that.
Okay.
fact.
All right. So I, for one, don't want the enemies to know what we have, because I, for one, appreciate every member of the armed services, wherever they are
So do
today.
I.
Wait a sec. Doing whatever they do, because you've got men and women around the world who are willing to give their life at a moment's notice for your freedom, my freedom, our security, and our way of life. And I don't think any person has the right to share information that compromises them, my freedom, and my security at all. No one has that right. And what I think...
What if it?
Go on.
What if it should more like a world disclosure situation? I firmly believe that it is an ignorant proposition to think that we are alone in the universe, that we are the only sentient beings in this galaxy, in this infinite universe we live in.
That's your
I
opinion.
think it's conceited.
That's your opinion. That's
if you believe in a higher power and a creative force, we can't be the only intelligent things that was put in this massive universe we live in.
That is your opinion, but I'll tell you something. It's not mine, and it's not the majority of people's opinion.
Well, maybe that's what needs to change about society, sir.
I disagree with you, and you know what? You're entitled to your opinion. You really are.
Thank you.
But don't
Thank
you
you.
dare put my freedom and the freedom of my country, my fellow Canadians, my best friend Americans at risk.
I'm not trying to do that, sir. I'm simply saying that if there is something out there that could possibly be a greater threat, then we need to at least acknowledge that avenue. That's all I'm saying. And maybe come together as a world when needed, if needed. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm not trying to put anybody's security at risk, sir. Please don't misunderstand me.
All right, we've
Because
got
I
to say
think
so long
every-
for
I think
tonight, and we'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. What do I think of that one? Well, Freddie Mercury said it best. He really did. And as you know, I usually have a shotgun blast at this time, but Craig didn't think we were going to need it tonight, and I told him maybe we would. Listen to this, pals. Yep, another one bites the dust. That's why they talk about ghosts, because reality sucks. But it's a fact of life. We'll be back, don't go away.